Welcome to the Homegrown Podcast, a place where we share the truth about food and farming from our kitchen to yours. I'm your host, Liz Hazelmeyer, along with my husband, Joey.
Good morning.
And together we hope to educate, inspire, and equip you in your pursuit of true nourishment. Today's guest is Hayley Painter, the co-founder and co-CEO of Painterland Sisters, a women and farmer-owned organic skier yoga brand. Their mission is to connect consumers with the direct source of their food while restoring the health in the land, communities, and people by using organic regenerative agriculture practices. Hayley, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
We're so excited. I stumbled upon you somehow on social media. Someone shared your brand and I was like, ooh, this looks amazing. And then I stalked your page and I begged you to come on the show. So thank you for being here. I'd love to start out with kind of the origin story of Painterland Sisters and kind of tell us what we're working with here. I want to hear the whole thing.
Yeah, so you're working with two farmers' daughters who grew up on our family's organic dairy farm in the rolling hills of northern Pennsylvania. It is one of the most rural parts of the country that I've been to. They call it Pennsylvania Wilds. So we are like deep in the woods. Our farm lies on top of a hill, but still in a valley. So we're in this pocket where we have more animals and cousins than we do actual like society. So it's a really fun area to have a farm. When we were growing up, we didn't realize that every kid didn't grow up on a family dairy farm with cropland and, many cousins and uncles and grandparents and the local community coming for breakfast every morning, whoever needed to do business with the family. So it was a pretty interesting upbringing.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. That sounds like the dream right there.
So you're in Pennsylvania and in the hills. What kind of animals are we talking about on your farm aside from cows?
So the cows are like the main thing. Like they are the beauties of the farm. Other animals, obviously, all the kids.
Oh, right on.
We're fourth generation, so there's 13 of us. Now there's the fifth generation running around, and there's 27 of them. And as far as other animals, obviously cats. You can't have a farm without cats. And then hobby animals, we have pasture pigs and goats and sheep and, beef cows, little chickens. Too many chickens, honestly. Like they're just like a fun pet for any farmer. And some ducks.
That's amazing. So you grew up on this farm that was already operating organically at the time?
Yeah, so we switched to organic in around 2001. Our farm's been operating since 1941. We have our dairy herd is a crossbred herd, so we have all the different colors and varieties of cows because it's really important to us that we graze. We have these huge hills behind our dairy farm and behind our house. My house is actually right here on the farm. And so we really needed our cows to be really healthy, the ability to walk, the longevity and the health of the animal is like the most important thing to us because with that, we can have a very high quality product that comes out of it. Some farmers really focus on the yield of the milk or the yield of the protein out of the milk. Instead, we focus on the health of the cow because with that, the milk is going to be phenomenal. And grazing is a huge aspect of that. So having that hybrid vigor of the crossbred animals, all the different colors is important. So we have like linebacks that are blue and red and black, and then they cross with shorthorns, making them look tiger striped. We have we accidentally had one beefalo, like because our neighbors have buffalo. So once we had a cross of a beefalo. Whoa. She was really shaggy, kind of like that Highland in the back of your pictures, without the horns. And obviously some Jerseys and Holsteins and Guernseys and things like that. But milking shorthorn is where my grandpa was really prideful of. And our family actually brought the first milking shorthorns to the U.S. way back when.
No way. This runs deep in your family.
Oh, yeah. We're apparently sons and daughters of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So, like, our family member was there, one of the painters back in the day.
That's incredible. I feel like I'm sitting in front of royalty right here. What is this?
That is so cool. So how many cows are we talking about here? What's the herd size?
And we have 400 organic dairy cows.
Goodness gracious.
Between the milking and the dry cows. And then we raise all of the heifers and steers up. So the steers get full grown on our farm. It's kind of different than a lot of dairy farms.
And do you use them for meat? Like, what do you use the steers for?
Yeah, it's organic beef.
Okay. And then how many are dry at a time? Because during calving season, there's a period where you dry up the cow, right before she has a baby, so you can kind of give her a break. So how many are you milking versus out of that 400?
Yeah, so we have around 125 dry, and it goes up and down throughout the year. Max will have 400 milking at a time. Minimum will have 300 milking at a time. So it really depends. Like right now is a huge calving time for us because it's spring. We run natural bulls, so we don't use AI.
Oh,
So it's kind of
wow.
whenever, the cows naturally sync with nature and when they want to breed back, when their bodies are healthy enough to. And so, yeah, this is like a huge boom for us at this time of year.
Okay, so I want to break that down for our audience who maybe just missed that and maybe heard AI and was like, artificial intelligence? What? Okay, so a lot of
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT, a lot of breeders, right, will use artificial insemination, and so they'll just impregnate the cows it's like a big syringe, right? I mean, it's kind of gnarly.
Mm-hmm.
And folks like you're saying you bring in the bulls and you let them kind of decide, are they ready to breed or not? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, exactly. So the bulls bring a lot of the diversity and what we're looking for in the herd. So we always run like a Jersey bull for our young heifers because their jerseys are smaller. So for heifers are young female cows that have never had a baby or cattle. And then for the cows, we, typically use a brown Swiss or Holstein we'll throw in there, still milking shorthorn occasionally. So it really depends on what we're looking for our herd to benefit in the next couple of years.
Wow. It's a whole level of intentionality, right? When you're breeding cows. That's fascinating.
Oh yeah. And for Painterland Sisters, like we're literally on the farm. So we're a yogurt company, right? We're fourth generation farmers. So it's really fun for us because we can go outside and take videos of what our cows are doing, what we're doing, show that to our consumers. So we have this level to connect our consumers directly with the farmers. The data census came out, like the 5-year farm census nationally, and it said that 17% of people in the US have ever met a farmer.
Wow.
Just met a farmer, not even a cow, right? Like not even going to a farm. This has met a farmer. And so to be able to go outside, spend zero money with my cell phone, showing people a live video or making a quick TikTok or reel. So now I can engage them. And with the cows outside and a couple of the bulls, it's so funny because the bulls and the boys are so curious. They're always like the first ones to the camera. Like, what are you doing in my pastures?
Mm-hmm. That's so cool. I love that even though society is moving further away from the source of their food, which is a tension point, we have this beautiful technology to connect us. So even though you're in Pennsylvania and we're in Ohio, I can see your farm. I can get to know you via social media. And that's the upside of it, right? Like, of course, there's downsides, but that's the way we can leverage these technologies to really get closer to our food. So I'd love to know the process too of you have these 400 cows that you're milking a portion of at a time, and then you're taking that and you're turning that into beautiful yogurt. So walk us through that process and what that looks like facility wise and packaging and getting on store shelves. I'd love to know that.
Yeah, so my sister Stephanie and I, we grew up on this farm, and we always wondered, we didn't realize that everyone didn't grow up on a farm like we did, that the world wasn't all like this and didn't have this opportunity. So as we got out into the world, we were wondering, like, how can we bring our farm to the world and the world back to the farm? We met a ton of people. They were always so curious about it. We were realizing there's a huge disconnect with consumers and the farmer. And at the same time, we were trying to answer the question, like, what is our niche on the farm? Are we going to go back and operate the equipment? I personally, that's not my biggest enjoyment. I'm not that great at it. I'm really high energy and I tend to like not be great at operating equipment. I love the cows though. So it's like, well, on the farm, this organic dairy farm with all these cousins, what is our niche? And then we realize it's not just what is our niche, what does our farm need to go for generations to come? And our biggest problem was we need to find a secure milk market for our milk because the market was unstable. There were times that, the milkman just couldn't pick up the milk because they couldn't pay the farmer, right? Because something happened at the store. There wasn't a demand for milk anymore. Farmers, especially conventional farmers, haven't been given an increase in price since 1970. So farmers are struggling financially. They're struggling because they don't even know if they'll still have like that steady income in the future. Imagine as like a consumer, you're going to your regular job every day. You're putting your all into it, working way more than 8 hours a day. You're not getting paid nearly enough. Then at the same time, your boss can be like, yeah, I know you're putting all this work, energy, time, family into it, but we're just going to decide to drop you. And you can't come back or have another job anywhere near this one for all the talents you put in.
Wow.
That's what it's like for these farmers. We're small, medium scale dairy farmers that pasture our cows here in northern Pennsylvania. And a lot of the northern states do a similar style farming and have small to medium scale farms. The ag census came out in Pennsylvania in the last 5 years, lost 45% of their dairy farms. This is happening across the entire country.
Wow.
So we really came back and we're like, we need to do something with our milk market before we become a statistic, before we have to sell the cows. And we almost sold we started planning in 2018 for what value added product can we make at a large enough scale to use all these cows' milk, which is around 100,000 pounds of milk a week. Each gallon of milk has 8.6 pounds of milk in it. So that's a lot of milk we had to get out to the world. But at the same time, compared to our country, it's considered a small amount. So we're at this weird medium scale. Like, what can we do? We're too big to start a store and just like a small direct to consumer market, but we're too small to really play games with the big boys. So we were like, all right, we have to do something with our milk. Should we start a processing plant? We studied all the different types of value added products, from cheese, sour cream, bottling milk. And then we made our own plant, and we designed it on paper, and it quoted out to $8 million before we ever sold anything. That wasn't going to be feasible. And so what we did is we started looking for co-manufacturers, co-mans. I always like, when I'm feeling froggy, I'm like, why isn't co-woman? But anyway, we started looking for co-manufacturers in our area. So a co-man basically has the processing abilities for, it could be anything. You can have a co-man for processing almonds, or, making pickles or making juice. And so we were looking for co-mans for organic dairy products. And in the state of Pennsylvania, we only found 2 medium scale ones.
Wow.
And it happened that one of those was a very premium organic skyr yogurt maker. And we loved his product. And I personally hate all yogurt. So the fact that I loved this yogurt, it was truly a niche in the system. He put his plant up in 2017. He's a guy from Iceland who's 10th generation Icelandic skyr maker. We're 4th generation organic dairy farmers in this area, but multi-generational dairy farmers in Pennsylvania. And so we brought our very high quality milk. We bring it down to his plant, his creamery, and then we worked with him to make our recipes in the style of yogurt we want to provide to the world. And we started that with him in 2019.
Wow.
So we met him in 2018. He started in 2017. And we bring a full truckload of milk, which is 60,000 pounds, down twice a week to his plant to be turned into tiny yogurts. And so each 60,000 pound truckload of milk makes 60,000 cups of yogurt that we have to sell within 2 weeks.
Wow. That is a logistical
No pressure, right?
Olympic sprint. Like, that's insane. I love that. And we've talked to other farmers who are like, listen, this value added space in the market is what really helps us sustain, because when we're just selling the raw product, right, the vegetable or just the beef, even that, there's not a lot of profit there, and we don't have a lot of room to pay ourselves or to others who need to help us. So this value added component, where you are turning your product into something else, you're enriching it, is a really critical part of staying alive.
What happened? I just want to speculate a little bit here to the milk prices. Why are we not getting raises? Like, why are we not bumping up the price if everything else is becoming more expensive?
Yeah, this is like, there's a lot of farmers out there, a lot of advocates for the solution. Like, as far as like food brands, we're considered CPG brands. I didn't know this terminology getting into it. But as far as like food that's on the grocery store shelves, 90% of the food is only owned by 10 companies. farmers, if only 17% of the population has ever even met a farmer, there's this gap where farmers aren't being able to tell their story, and to tell what's going on. But at the same time, they're only one part of this food supply chain. So they don't even have a clear lens of what's happening in the supply chain, the opportunities, to have a higher price for different commodities that need it. And one of those commodities that desperately needs an increase in price is milk. And it's a product that consumers eat. It's a product that has 13 essential nutrients. And so it's a lot cheaper than buying vitamins, minerals, their products on WIC campaigns. So to raise this price is a stance that I strongly stand by, because a little drinker of milk should not be anywhere near the same price as a drinker of Coca-Cola or soda pop. Like, it should be far above that, because the nutritional value that these consumers are getting is far above that. So now consumers are thinking, hey, we can't get more for our milk. Let's diversify our farm. Let's get into value added, wear other hats, and add solar. And to me, I'm like, why? You're doing such a good job at farming and making this raw commodity, and your job in society, it's our job as society to give you an adequate price. And so I think it's the rest of the population, 2% of the population is farmers. It's our 98% to work with them to raise this price, so that they can be doing, so when new technology comes out or new ways of farming, they can pivot and focus on being the best stewards of the land, because that's their job. Instead of we're asking them to diversify their hats and be spread so thin and have something that their kids might not even want to be passed down to them, because financially they've seen what happened to their parents. So it's this huge crisis that's not being talked about enough, because the farmers don't have a voice or that transparency of what's actually going on in the supply chain.
So I'm in consumer research. So CPG is a very normal term for me, funny enough. And the consumer packaged goods, for people that are wondering.
Yeah, thank you.
In the research realm, so doing consumer research with CPG companies, I've learned with different grocery stores. So I work with a lot of Fortune 100, 500 CPG companies and or others. So people like Kroger and Procter & Gamble, and we're in Cincinnati, so a lot of Cincinnati folks for sure. Anyhow, I've learned of this concept that is, in my opinion, very startling, and it's that a lot of what grocery stores would deem as commodity items, meaning like these are just things that people are going to put in their homes. They're going to bring people to the grocery store. They will sell them at a loss intentionally. And so the grocery store, what I mean is that the grocery store will sell them for less than they spend. So they will lose money every time they sell a bottle of milk or eggs or I think there's like bread in there. But like a lot of these items like milk, bread, and eggs and maybe flour, some of this other stuff. And the purpose is to bring people into the grocery store so that they'll shop the items where they make a really high margin. And so grocery stores do not make margin or significant margin on milk, because they're using it as an item to that the one thing they'll portray, they'll say, well, these things should be just something that everybody has access to at a fair price. So that's like one thing that they'll say. And then the second thing they'll say is that as a grocery store, the way we make our money is off of branded items, or especially if they've got store brands, right? So if there's like Kroger brand, potato chips, right? They're making just hand over fist on some of those, processed foods that are in the center of the aisle. But the milk is, and I'm just curious, is this something that you've ever heard of or something you've ever experienced?
Yeah, low margins for dairy products is definitely what I feel on an everyday. Right now, right? We have this yogurt, and it's one of the most premium yogurts. It's got 4 cups of milk in it. And so, like you said, the commodity products and an everyday thing, what they're doing is lowering the price in the grocery store shelves for especially dairy. And they're also lowering the nutritional value, because if there's a lower margin for it that the grocery store is paying to brands are like, well, I have no choice but to lower the nutritional value. Different ways they can do that is like a lot of yogurts don't even have 1 full cup of milk in it. Like the ones that are concentrated, they'll take their whey protein and turn it to whey protein powder. Then they'll charge for that higher price of whey protein powder.
Mm-hmm.
But if they left it in their dairy products like yogurt, people don't need to buy that more expensive whey protein powder. They can just eat it naturally. So our yogurt has 18 grams of protein in it without adding protein powders. And it doesn't always have to be regular whey protein they add back into yogurt, like Greek yogurts. It could be pea protein or other forms.
Mm-hmm.
And that causes this grittiness. They also lose a lot of their micronutrients that way. And so two things are happening is consumers are getting depleted of nutrients because they're paying for that staple price, and farmers are getting paid less. And so our stance is like, hey, we need to really raise the price on these things to help the consumer and the farmer and really bridge that gap and be there for them. So it does make sense that you're saying that. I haven't seen too much research directly about that. I feel it on the investor side, though. Investors, when they're looking to invest in food brands, they always say that they don't really want to invest in new drink companies and dairy products. Why dairy products wouldn't they want to invest in? Because low margins.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like this thing that we're fighting against. But we chose to, instead of, when we got started, they said, hey, come out with a lower nutritional value yogurt, drop it down to a 0% fat, add monk fruit, drop your protein to 12 grams because that's still higher than most yogurts out there, and you'll sell very well. You'll sit even above the medium yogurt. We're like, no, we're going to provide the best product we can. And then the stores were like, well, we can't pay for that. And we're like, well, just give it a chance. So we're one of the most expensive priced yogurt on the shelves, and we still need to go up 15 cents. That's all it is, right? That many with all the volumes we're moving. So it's not huge numbers. And then we work with our programs like the food banks, like WIC programs, to help get the mind shift switched in consumers. But once they switch it, like they will have enough money to buy these products because of the nutrition that's in there. So real dairy products with the proper amount of nutrition is some of the cheapest bang for their dollar.
I love what you brought up, and it's so important, Hayley. So to reiterate what Hayley said, she was saying that, wow, yeah, the margins are being slashed because if anything that Joey said was even remotely true, grocery stores are using dairy at its cheapest form to bring people in to buy it just because they want to bring people in the store, but they want to make money on the higher margin items, these more processed goods. And so a lot of farmers are like, well, if that's what's happening, then I'm going to take all the value I can out of my dairy products and convert it into whey protein. And the grocery store says, oh, that's great because we make a ton of money on the whey protein margins, right? And so like that cycle becomes this vicious cycle of, if I'm buying yogurt, is it because I just like it, or is there nutritional value for me? And we oftentimes have people on our show that are nutritionists or dietitians or people that are helping us understand fitness, and we've talked in depth lately about getting protein into your diet and how incredibly important it is, and how stripped of protein it seems like our world is these days. And a lot of the recommended protein intake numbers that we've had suggested to us and that now we kind of recommend ourselves is 1 gram per ideal pound of body weight. And so many people will look at us and be like, I can't do that. How on earth can I possibly get that much protein?
Eat a bowl of yogurt, people.
And here's a great example as to why you're not receiving that much protein on a regular basis. Is because you are being pushed down a route of commodities that are not having the full amount of protein they would typically have in it. And you're being pushed financially to go out and spend your money on, instead of just the normal foods you would have in your house, on supplements so that you can make it to that number. And I'm not anti-supplement, but what I am saying though is that to consider a cup of yogurt that you could have in the morning that has almost 20 grams of protein is significant. That is so much more protein than what you would get if you were, good Lord, people having a bagel for breakfast.
Oh gosh. Can you read for us the ingredients on the back of one of your yogurts?
If you're not watching, by the way, on YouTube, she has them. And
she's holding them up.
Go to YouTube and check them out. They look outstanding.
I want to pull up my plain because that's the best. And I actually don't have a plain yogurt cup with me right now.
Okay, give me the plain.
But our plain, large one, this is our vanilla large one, has actually 21 grams of protein per serving naturally. So ingredients on the top of my head. I'm going to do the plain one, but through the vanilla. Cultured pasteurized organic whole milk. And then it would be lactase enzyme. It's a lactose-free product. And live and active cultures, L. agaricus, S. thermophilus, and bifidobacterium. And so with our plain yogurt, we don't add anything in but the cultures and the lactase enzyme and
That's
the
it.
probiotics. The probiotics we use are that BB12. And so there's not quality in the types of probiotics people always add to their yogurts. And you mentioned that what's happening on the store shelves is depleting the nutrition of the yogurt, right? Or the different commodity products. But by encouraging that lower quality to be sold in like dairy, it's actually encouraging in the dairy farming aspect, high yields. So I mentioned at the beginning, we focus on crossbred dairy cows. On average, our cows produce 35 pounds of milk a day. The average dairy farm, in the US is like 100 pounds a day. So focusing on like volume of milk instead of quality of milk or quality of the animal is now that mindset shift. And then people blame the farmer for it, but it's not the farmer. Farmers will provide what the consumer demand is and what's being offered on the grocery stores and what their prices are being paid for. And so they're really struggling out there. A lot of these small to medium scale farmers that are just doing, one style commodity products to really help. So it's like, what do we want as consumers? What do we want as store brands? And then how do we empower the farmers to continue to do those practices, because they are awesome stewards. So this mentality of like organic regenerative farming is not a new one. So if it's this whole thing like holy grail, like we're switching all of our practices, let's support new farms to farm this way. What we're going to do is we're going to put those old farms out of business, and that's already the problem in society. Instead, it's like empowering those small, medium scale, and even large farms to switch to these methods, or the ones that are already doing them to be showcased. So it's this transition, and a lot of farmers are already doing it. And so it's really like the middle of the supply chain supporting that and putting their money to educating consumers of what is real products.
It makes me think of, I was just in the yogurt section chatting with a couple I met at the grocery store, weirdly enough. It's weird. And they were like, hey, I don't even buy this yogurt on the shelf because a lot of it's only fermented for like 4 hours versus like he does like a longer fermentation at home. And I started to flip the kind of cheaper Greek style yogurt ingredient list over. There's lots of gums. There's lots of even the one that's sitting in my fridge right now. There's lots of kind of fillers, I think, for texture. And I'm wondering if that's because they're adding that in because it's a lower quality product and they're trying to bolster the texture of this. And it's really sweet. It's got a lot of sugar. I don't know how much sugar is in yours. This one's too sweet for my taste. And I was thinking about it because I was like, sometimes I'll grab it because I'll be like, oh, this one's, $3.49 for a big tub versus maybe a smaller thing that's like $3 on its own. And I'm telling you, I won't even finish the jug because I'm like, it's just not what I wanted it to be. It's just that yogurt is not. And I think if consumers literally knew on the back end, on the production side, that the nutritional value is being changed to compensate for the lack of profit, they would maybe choose their groceries a little different. For us, we consume raw milk, so we buy that from a local farm. We pay a premium for that raw dairy because we're getting it directly from the farmer. I don't bat an eye about spending $6.50 on a half gallon of milk because I know nutritionally that's the biggest bang for my buck in my fridge. And we all drink it as a family. We love it. And so it's the same principle, except for applied in the grocery store. Obviously, you're not going to have a lot of raw yogurt because you have to pasteurize it for the fermentation process. But it's this mindset shift that is you're communicating so clearly, and it's so helpful to hear from a production side what that really looks like and how you guys do things differently, like having 4 cups of milk in an actual container, having that really high protein, not adding those extra gums and kind of fillers for that texture. It's all really clicking in my head for me. So thanks for fleshing that out. So I think that's a huge point for us. So
yeah, I always say our yogurt looks the most expensive per container, but per nutrients, it's the cheapest. So
Yeah.
getting like that mindset set for consumers, and then the education to understand it, because it is confusing. Like our plain yogurt doesn't have anything added to it. So there's no gums or guars or anything to thicken the yogurt. And there is a lot of yogurts that use it for the actual yogurt base, versus when we have our fruit in there, you have to make your jelly in some way. This is what I always say. And how do you make jelly at home? Pectins, gums, or like thickeners to thicken your fruit into a jam or jelly. And so there are that, and there's organic, natural versions of those, just like you would do if you were going to make it 100 years ago. And so it's like paying attention to, okay, what is the ingredients for the yogurt and what is the ingredients for the things that we're adding to the yogurt that you would add at home regardless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. We recently had this whole conversation with our girls about when you look at the ingredient list, are there ingredients in there because it's a packaged product at a grocery store that you would never add in your own kitchen? Ice cream was the biggest example. And we're like, well, we can buy an ice cream with just literally cream, egg yolk, vanilla, and some milk in it. Or we could buy one with a million ingredients because
Things
it
in
has
it.
to sit on the shelf. And we're like, if it matches your process you do at home, it's probably a good buy, probably worth the extra dollar. So I think that's a really good.
To help people with that ingredient list reading, why don't you walk us through, we've done this a few times before, but what does your process for making yogurt look like when you first were experimenting with this? I'm guessing there was a point, Hayley, where you were like, we want to make yogurt. And maybe you went directly to a co-packer and you never made it yourself. But take me on that yogurt making journey so that people at home can maybe even make some themselves, but even just learn as they read ingredient lists of, maybe what's some things they could look out for when they're buying yogurt off the shelf.
So yogurt itself should only have milk and cultures in it. Some of the two things that I would say you can add to a plain yogurt is a lactase enzyme to make it lactose free, and the probiotic pack, which is basically cultures and bacteria to boost up the probiotics. So those are two things that are kind of natural that our bodies would do if we were digesting a gallon of milk, right? So our bodies naturally make yogurt. If we think about that, it's a little weird, and we naturally make cheese. So lactase enzymes naturally found in our stomachs for those who can digest lactase. Breaking it down and making it naturally lactose free because of our bodies. Those that don't have lactase in their bodies, if we add it for them, then it breaks it down. So lactase and the probiotics are two things that are natural things that would really go hand in hand with making things like cheese or yogurt or fermented dairy products. Other than that, you shouldn't have anything in it. You shouldn't have protein powders. You shouldn't have the thickeners in there. Like, yeah, you can have that with your fruits because, again, think about how you would make jelly at home. What would you have in there? And as far as like dairy products, keep it just dairy. like if you want to add things for the flavor, okay, just make sure like those ingredient panels like have that clearly separated.
And what makes this skier style yogurt unique?
So like Icelandic style and Greek style are strained yogurts. So yogurt, you have your milk, you heat it up, you add your cultures thicken it. There's different cultures that can thicken it more or keep it a little loose. So you can have, I always say, like your sloppy yogurt, or your cultures that make it thicker. So then we take our thicker style yogurt, and how we strain it out is the technology made in Iceland in the 90s called ultrafiltration. So it filters out the water and it keeps all the micronutrients, all the whey protein in the yogurt itself. So it basically concentrates all of the nutrients, and then you just have your water as a byproduct. Versus the typical way to strain yogurt in our country for Greek yogurt is centrifuging. So centrifuging, you put your sloppy yogurt in there, right? Your regular yogurt that you could eat plain, it's still great. Just as like a 1 cup of yogurt to 1 cup of milk. You add your cultures, it thickens. But you want to make it thicker, so you strain it. Another way of straining it is centrifuging it. So you spin it really, really, really fast, like we did in science classes in 9th grade. And what you lose is all the whey protein and a lot of the micronutrients. And so if you're left without the whey protein, and that's what consumers are looking for, they add those protein powders back into it to thicken it, and to add that higher level of protein. But what you're lacking is the micronutrients. So protein is only one of those things our bodies need. If we don't have all those micronutrients to digest the protein, then we can't use all of the access of our protein that we're consuming each day. It's a really big thing I encourage people to think of. If you think of the process of making yogurt or cheese, it's basically you take milk, and if you didn't have cultures can be okay, leave your milk out. It's going to start to sour. Souring is like a culturing process, and you don't need to add anything for that. So naturally, back in the day, that's how people learned how to make different dairy products. So as it thickens, it's a natural process.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where I was going with that. Distracting.
No, that's
No, I love
so
that.
good. That's so good. What about your guys' did you guys ever make yogurt at the house prior to going to a co-manufacturer?
When I first got out of college, I moved to New Jersey, and I lived in an intern house with people my age, 22-year-olds, 21-year-olds from around the world. So my roommate was from Costa Rica. I had a roommate from Spain. The past people who were interns were from China, and they came back to help us. A girl from Washington State, a lucky boy from New Jersey. We all made different cheese products together and dairy products. We made over 30 different styles of cheese, and made 2 different styles of yogurt. We made the strained style of Greek yogurt, where you just take yogurt and strain it with kind of like a pantyhose or a cheesecloth, and you press it. And then we made a traditional style Greek yogurt. Traditional Greek yogurt is made with sheep's milk. So sheep milk has a lot more protein naturally and other nutrients. And so when you just add the cultures to sheep milk, it's as thick as a Greek yogurt would be made with cow milk after you strain it. So
Wow.
it's this process of just adding cultures to sheep milk, and it's a way thicker product.
What is your fat content in your yogurt? Are you leaving all the fat in? Are you doing whole milk?
So our product is a double cream, 6% fat, which is over the amount of fat that you would naturally have. But since there's 4 cups of milk naturally has around 4% fat in there, 3.5%. So if we left all of our fat in there, we would have a 16% fat yogurt in this tiny container of yogurt, and it would be way more fat than that's found in ice cream.
Yeah.
And so we do take some of the cream out and are still left with a double cream product, which is over whole milk.
Wow. That's wild. Do you guys use all the milk from your organic dairy for yogurt production, or do you guys have a sideline of still selling milk? Do you still sell cream? Do you do those things too?
So we're ramping up. Right now we buy 2 truckfuls of milk, and there's 1 milk truckload that we don't buy from our farm. So a typical farm schedule, the cows are milked twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day. Our cows are milked twice a day, morning and night. And the milk truck typically comes to pick it up 3 times a week. And so we use 2 out of 3 of those pickups for our yogurt. And by 2025, we should be using all of our farm's milk. So we use our farm's milk and the other farms in the area, because our farm only supports about a half a truckload being picked up every 2 days. And so we top it off with our neighbors' truckloads as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really amazing. So what was the process of having to get a consumer packaged good on the shelves? Walk us through, did you have to do FDA approval? What did all that look like?
Yeah, it's crazy. Again, we had no idea what CPG was, consumer packaged goods. So we did not know we were getting ourselves into. We were thinking, okay, our local community in Pennsylvania can obviously eat 60,000 cups of yogurt every 2 weeks, every week. Especially since they've never heard of our brand, right? It would just take right off. We had no idea what this world was. And so we started, and we did a small trial batch of 14,000 yogurts. We hand labeled each of those, and we peddled this stuff around everywhere we could go. And then we learned terms like brokers and distributors and retail store. All stores aren't retail stores. We did not understand what was going on. We had this mission. How do we save our farm and the other farms. We're going to do it through making yogurt. We have the process down. We have the great product. How the heck are we going to sell it? So we started peddling around. We started asking people in our communities, and they would connect us to someone in their network. So the old farmer mentality is you just keep asking and inviting people in to help you and saying what your mission is and where you want to go. And so we quickly we sold our first cup of yogurt March of 2022, and those were with hand labeled yogurts, and we hand labeled our first 60,000 cups. And by August of 2022, we had an actual product that could hit retail shelves. So we launched with Giant, which is local in Pennsylvania. And then we quickly went into Central Market, which opened up the second largest, or one of the two largest distributors in the country, KeHE. We also opened up Albert's Organics at the same time, which is an affiliate of UNFI. And so we, with opening up those two distributors, we got traction from natural grocers nationally, which is a very high-end grocery store. And then Sprouts picked us up nationally 4 months after we started making our yogurt. And from there, we just kept trying to saturate those distribution units. And then we're doing that nationally, while at the same time, we're trying to get into every mom and pop in the state of Pennsylvania. Like, how can we get this in every single door in PA while distributing to the very high-end grocery stores across the country? So we just started, hustling, getting this yogurt out there. A lot of luck, a lot of positivity, a lot of willingness to ask, like, how can we do this? Like, our mission is how do we sustain the farm using this yogurt? How do we get it out there? And from there, we just asked the questions. We knew we didn't know everything, and we were very open-minded to have people help us get to the next direction through grants and consultants and advisors and, distributors and stores. Like, if you ask them for help, they will help you. A lot of times new brands don't know that. They look at retailers or distributors because they are bigger and can mean everything to your brand. They want to come in all buttoned up, but sometimes, like, people want to help you and bring you along, especially if they believe in your mission and your story and you have a really good product. And that's what we did. We did everything the best we possibly could. We got people to fall in love with what we were doing, be on board with it. And it was just really fun to see the community in both CPG and agriculture come together to help us get this yogurt out there.
That's so cool. Are you in all Sprouts in the US?
We're in all Sprouts, and we have all of our flavors pretty much in there. They were who we launched with nationally. We're in every single state but Alaska. We're in stores like Whole Foods in the Mid-Atlantic and Pete's in Chicago and the NCG stores and Infra stores. So we're just really excited to keep leveling up.
Yeah. The only place I can get you guys here is I think it's at a Fresh Market.
Yeah.
Locally in Cincinnati. But I wonder if enough consumers like walk up to the counter at Kroger and they're like, hey, can you get Painterland Sisters? Will they reach out to you? Like, because a lot of people are like, oh, just give them a brand request and they'll look into it. I'm like, it's gotta be a process, a contract you sign. But are these bigger companies willing to be consumer led in what their products are on the shelves?
Yeah, the consumer demand drives a lot of feedback, and us knowing that the consumers want the demand is huge, because then we can take all of that data that the consumers are naturally giving us. So if a consumer is interested in it in a local store, by telling us, we can add that to our, sheets. So then when we're presenting Kroger, and Kroger has different retail chains, and we want to work with them for their high-end chains, because that would do the best for our product to get it out there at first. And so then we would tell, Kroger natural chain, blah, 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 like, hey, there's this many people in your area that are really excited for the product. Like, give us a chance. We'll have them go in and help us with demos even, So there's a lot of great community support that we've been getting. We started this thing called the Moo Crew. So it's like these people, like brand ambassadors, everyone thinks of as online, which they are. Like, social media helps a ton. But there's always those excited people. You probably connect them through social media, but they're not putting pictures up. They're not influencers online, but they're influencers in their own community, right? Or they're go-getters in their own community. We discovered this actually through like my grandma. Like my grandma's always like, I want to take this to church. I want to take this here. I want to take it there. And my mother-in-law is the same way. Like I told everyone about it. And, you're out of stock here. What's going on with that store? I didn't even know I was out of stock. Like, what's going on? I sold them yogurt. Why isn't it on the shelves? So it's this thing that has taken over. We call them the Moo Crew. So they're boots on the ground, excited consumers that are like, hey, I'd love your product here. And we're like, hey, if you like it there, would you like free yogurt for you to eat and for you to pass out and to give us insights on whatever you think's important? Like, hey, you should be in this store, or hey, I'd love to set up at Penn State Don and, sample your yogurt. So we invite people to join our sisterhood and to extend our community that way, which reaches far beyond social media.
That's so cool.
The Moo Crew.
The Moo Crew. I want to be part of the Moo Crew. Do you guys sell any direct to consumer, like through your website or anything?
Not yet. That's definitely something we want to do. So maybe when we launch that, we can jump back on here and tell you the new strategy and what we're thinking there. So it's been on our mind for 6 years, and what we wanted to start our business with. We thought we were going to start selling everything under the sun from the farm online, like meat boxes and merch and everything but yogurt pretty much, because again, I didn't like that. So now we're staying focused, saturating in the grocery stores. And then, the ideal goal is, let's get something directly to consumers in a really awesome, impactful way. So stay tuned.
I love that.
So what happens when you surpass, right now you're taking 2 of the 3 possible truckloads of milk. It was just on my mind this whole time. What's your thoughts for when you inevitably take that 3rd truckload and beyond?
Yeah, so there's a ton of farmers in our area. Like I said, 45% of dairy farmers in the state of Pennsylvania went out of business the last 5 years. So offering these farmers, and again, the farmers are our community. Like we have great relationships with a lot of the dairy farmers and other farmers in our area, a lot of youth farmers that want to come in and start farms. We work with a lot of nonprofit third-party companies that are supporting initiatives like grazing, transitional farmers, youth in agriculture. And so we would just keep tapping into our network to help these farms either convert to organic or help the farms that are already organic, be a part of our supply chain.
What is the process of getting that USDA organic certification? What does that look like to upkeep that label?
It's pretty easy if you are working with USD organic certified farms and, fruit suppliers. So it's basically just submitting the paperwork once a year, paying the price for that. And the more products you sell, the higher the price is for that. So that kind of stinks, but it definitely makes sense because, we're selling more products with that USDA organic certification. We're also WBENC certified, which is the largest national woman-owned business certification. So we maintain that, and that's pretty rigorous too to prove that we're women.
Wow.
And then PA Preferred is another one we really stand by, which means that our products are grown, produced, and manufactured in the state of Pennsylvania.
That's awesome. Walk us through some of the other ways you guys are regeneratively minded. So you talked about how you don't use artificial insemination. You have this crossbreed of cows. You're pasture raising, you're grazing your cows, obviously. What else are you guys doing? And my follow-up question to that is the leftover water from the production of the yogurt. Do you have a way to upcycle that at all, or is that a waste product? I'm so curious.
Yeah, so the water right now there's 2 things that we do with it. There's a company called Superfrau in the Connecticut area, and she's a startup woman-owned business who takes our whey and bottles it into her Superfrau drinks. It's basically a probiotic whey drink, sparkling water drink. And then the additional whey water pretty much that we have is spread out on the farmers' fields locally.
Oh, fun. That's cool.
So other ways that, organic regenerative is really important. There's a lot of definitions, buzzwords going around in our industry. So we're very protective of it from a farmer standpoint. It's supporting the well-being and benefit for the future generations of animals, community, farmers, and the land/environment. So right now, it's really common to just focus on soil health and land health. We saw what happened when we did that with animal husbandry in the early 90s, all of the campaigns that PETA did and everything that was going on about animal husbandry. We were not talking about soil health at all in that time frame. And now we're talking so much about soil health, and it's like, wait a second. When we started our business, they said there's 4 pillars to start a business. It's like a chair. And if you don't have all 4 legs of your chair, you're going to fall out of that chair. The 4 pillars of a business are operations, sales, finance, and marketing. So if you concentrate so much on one, you could hinder the other or take your priority off the entire stability of your chair. So, or like regenerative agriculture is a very similar thing. We have to focus on our communities, which are consumers, cities, rural areas, infrastructure in that way. We have to focus on our farmers, the stewards of the land and their well-being for generations to come. We have to focus on the animals and the land and environment. So these are the 4 pillars. And if we focus only on one, our chair is not going to be stabilized. And if we're only focusing on one, it's just a marketing ploy. It's really important that the regenerative health of our farming and agriculture is focused on all of those. And when we're making decisions about launching new products or eating new products or supporting those from the consumer lens, support the ones that you know are bettering all of those together. And regenerative is that definition. And so that's what we're preaching about and giving credibility and traction for. So some of those pillars are farmers being paid financially reasonable? Do they have a transition plan to have other farmers in their area continue it for generations? For the community, are these products, do they have access to local products? Do they have access to farmer-owned products? Again, very few products in the store shelves are farmer-owned or really have a farmer say. What is going on with soil health? How are we bettering that and improving it? And then how are we working our animals into improving that soil health? How are we focusing on the health of the animal? Because ultimately the health of the animal will provide the highest quality product in return. And so it's really this balance of, it's not like one or all. You can't have the perfect soil health, but then not pay attention to something else. So it's like, it's constantly bettering and improving while new technologies and new studies and new science comes out. Because right now it's like, oh my goodness, we have all this data on what's best for an environment. Guess what? In 10 years, we're going to get so much more data because we're an awesome society that keeps learning and growing. So empowering the stewards of the land, the farmers, to keep adapting to this in a regenerative manner is the most important thing. Through processes like using the land to graze the cows on, and then making sure small and medium scale farms don't go out of business, to ensure consumers have a direct source, that they know what a farmer is and who a farmer is, and they're empowered to be connected in that way, for store shelves to have the highest quality products on there, because our consumers are struggling more than ever with nutrient deficiency. There's a larger population of nutrient deficient people than ever before. So a regenerative system is making sure that we have real nutrients on the shelves for them.
Yeah, one of the things that we try to encourage people on this show is to look past food's monetary value and look at its nutritive value and say, you know what, if that $3 surplus, that extra price is going to get you a more balanced meal and you're actually going to save money because you're not buying the $5 chips anymore, it's worth it. It's worth it to maybe buy less overall products in your cart, but make sure the ones you are buying are really nutrient dense. That's such a hot term now, and I love that that's coming into people's awareness, because you could walk through the grocery store, fill your cart full of quote food, and you could be so lacking. So everything you're saying is just reiterating this. And a point that you've made that I think just clicked for me too is like, you guys are farmer owned, and there's so much division. I think also in the dairy industry of like, you have the farmer who then sells the milk to the production plant or processing plant, and they sell it to the retailer, right? There's multiple steps in the food chain, and you guys are trying to kind of condense that and then also tell your story so that consumers who aren't maybe your next door neighbors can see with their own 2 eyes and learn from you. And you have this educational posture in your brand that I think is just really cool and unique. And I think what we need to see is a lot more younger brands coming up with the same mentality, because we don't need just 17% of the population having a relationship with a farmer. We need 100%, right? We all need to be in community and at least know these people and support them, because it's our livelihood. So I love that. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover that we didn't ask you about, or anything else that you're excited about for Painterland Sisters coming up?
We're just really excited to connect with our consumers and to keep broadening that network. So we throw like the silliest videos of our cows and things that are going on online to connect in that way. And we are really intentional about actually making an impact by making those decisions that are, nutrient dense, or that give community awareness of what is a farmer. Oh, here's an adopt a calf program that any school in the entire country and homeschools can use. Like, here's a connection for that. And so we're really using our yogurt as a conduit to our greater mission, which is connecting consumers and farmers. And just reminding everyone in the middle of the supply chain that we can really empower that connection, because that's really what's going to drive a difference home for our society, for our kids and our grandkids.
That's beautifully said. Will you tell people where they can find Painterland Sisters? Both, I know you have a directory on your website of where they can physically find the product, but also online, your Instagram, these things.
Yeah, so Painterland Sisters is the fastest growing brand according to Spins data nationwide, and we're in every single state now, including Alaska. We just got into Alaska, which is awesome. So you can go online on painterlandsisters.com, and you can go to our where to buy page and find a store near you. And if you don't have a store near you, we really encourage you to let us know the stores that you are really connected with, because who knows, we could get into that store for you and you can have access to that product. You can check out what we're doing on our farm and some fun recipes and how you can use our plain yogurt for cooking, baking, and just fun savory things on our Instagram and Facebook through painterlandsisters.com. And you can follow along with the different awesome awards we're getting, like Organic Emerging Entrepreneurs of the Year and Forbes 30 Under 30 for 2024. So follow along. We'll keep you updated on our newsletters, and you can be a part of our community at Painterland Sisters anywhere.
Love that. This has been so amazing. I love giving a little peek behind the curtain into the farmer-owned organic skier yogurt, so such a niche thing, but you have such a cool story. So thank you, Hayley, for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. We'll talk soon.
And with that, Hayley Painter has left the virtual chat.
Yes, she has. What a wonderful, high-energy human being.
Awesome.
If she was in Cincinnati, we'd be friends for sure.
100%. We're friends already.
I mean, like, we'd go get coffee and stuff.
Yes,
like we'd hang out. I'd go hang out with the cows. Maybe we'll move.
You just want to hang out with her for her cows.
No, she's so sweet. I was kind of running through in my head, like, all the different dairy episodes we've done on the show, and we were kind of building this, like, whole category of this organic commercial dairy where these brands are so interested in the education for consumers. And Painterland Sisters is just another wonderful example, but they're this up and coming, they've got this fresh energy, and they have this real mission to not only save their family farm, but give you a higher value product. So I love their story. Like I said in the beginning, I begged them to come on the show, so that they're gonna be amazing. And what a wonderful time.
Such a wonderful time, and super cool to see their story and their growth. I mean, super rapid, super quickly, and I really just hope that things continue that way for them, because I think what they're doing is really good, not only for the farms, because that's honorable work in and of itself, but also for people. I mean, we talked about this. What an amazing example of spending money where it counts.
Yeah.
Right? Where you can go out and buy yogurt and eat that yogurt and it does almost nothing for you. Or you can buy yogurt like this for more money, but then maybe skip the, whatever else that you were going to buy to add protein to your, you know what I mean? Like the protein bar or you can skip that, right? And save that money, and you'll probably end up in the positive, especially health-wise. So super, super, super cool. Love that. Speaking of spending money in good ways, tell me about some good ways people can spend their money or not.
At Shop VH?
Or at Homegrown or wherever.
You know, who was it? I just shared our whisk, and a friend was like, "Ooh, where's that whisk from?" And I was like, "Girl, don't you worry, it's on the shop." We are building this network of small artisan makers, smaller companies creating products, and innovating new products that are hitting the market. And we did this. We joked on a previous episode about how we don't really do like affiliate marketing because we don't really want to back a brand and then have them come out with some big political statement that then we are now tied to. So we literally just created our own brand of consumer products. And that's what you find at Hazelmeyer Goods. So we've got amazing coffee that's roasted locally. We've got organics, fair trade certified tea, because that's big in that industry. You want to know that your tea is coming from an ethical source. And then we've got tools for your home. I mean, we've got little hand carved, maybe not hand carved, but like machine carved by hand. I don't know. These wooden pinch bowls that I use every single day for our salt.
What do you call a lathe? I mean, Dan's doing it by hand.
Is that hand? I don't know. And so we've got like these pinch bowls. We've got these awesome wooden whisks. We're coming out with a bow bread knife. We have this gorgeous bread box that's out now. Again, we got a new producer, 2 new producers to help us put those back online. So we've got
bread boxes.
Bread boxes back. We've got, what else? We've got our cotton coiled proofing baskets for sourdough. We have spurtles to stir your starter and we just go on the shop and check it out.
We need to send Hayley a coffee mug, because she even like jokingly asked us if we had one, and we were like,
we do.
We do.
Carrie hooked us up with those handmade ceramic mugs, and yeah, we talk about it on the show because it's our business, but we also are like, there's a lot that it could be hard when you're following along with us and our family. It can be hard to kind of keep up because we're dropping new things all the time. And a lot of my friends are like, I love you so much, but like, I can't listen to a podcast every single week. So if you're catching us every other episode or whatever, like, we just want to keep you abreast of what's new. So
abreast.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever used that phrase in my life, but it felt accurate.
Good.
So.
This is good.
Did I use it correctly?
I don't know. I don't even know what it means. I just, I repeated it because it sounded funny.
Anyway, shopdh.com. You can find all of our family vetted home goods and other products too. Consumables like our large dish soap. It's my favorite thing we have. Coffee and tea. If you want to support the podcast, if you like today's episode, please leave a 5-star rating and review, because that helps push this podcast to the Explore page and helps up our name in the algorithm. Because believe it or not, podcasting is like another form of social media where the more clicks, the more listens, the more playtime, the more rating and review, the more we get our name out there, and then other folks can learn from the wonderful guests we have on the show.
You can also go and support us by going to subscribe to our Substack. We create additional exclusive content for you there. So it is a return on investment scenario. There is no, you give us money to keep doing what we're currently doing. We're not asking for any donations. No. So we will come and hook you up, but you got to subscribe. That is what, $8 a month?
$8 a month if you want to pay month to month. If you pay for the whole year, it breaks down to $6 a month.
Where do you find the Substack?
You go to substack.com/homegrown education, I believe.
There you go.
Or they have a search tool. You can search. I mean, there's only one Homegrown Education on Substack. You can't have like multiple usernames. So you'll find us there. You'll see my photo. You'll recognize it. But we are dropping exclusive podcast episodes on that channel. And so, yeah, that's another thing that like we never talk about, but we're doing it. So, yeah, a lot of crazy, exciting things.
We also have curriculum for you and your kids. We wrote books.
We did.
We put a lot of time and effort into those too. Yeah. It's not like, hey, we wrote a book.
I just shipped out a whole batch yesterday.
Homegrowneducation.org is where you can find those. These are curriculum for your kids to get them in the real food game, to help kind of change a generation, get people thinking differently. Teach your kids to cook so that they can read ingredient labels and make wise decisions of their own. Yeah. If they read an ingredient label in their future and they're like, I don't understand this at all. Well, they don't necessarily need to go to culinary school for that. We can get them the basics, and this is what we're working on. Homegrowneducation.org. Get some curriculum for your kids. We got meal plans on there for you, for breakfast, for lunch. We got the real food.
Not for lunch, just for breakfast and dinner.
Breakfast and dinner. Thank you.
You just made so many people so excited.
Breakfast and dinner.
And then they were like, is what's for lunch out, Liz? No, it's not. No plans in the future, but we'll see.
And also, We have the Raw Dairy Guide, which this episode is privy to. I would go check that out. It's free.
That's for free.
That is for free. So we do have things on there for free. Sourdough Guide for free. Go on there, get that. Get the Raw Dairy Guide for free. And we'll catch you guys in the next one.